behavioral health therapist here. And what that means is that we do like brief care therapy, so like 6 to 8 sessions. It's like short-term therapy. So there's long-term therapy, short-term therapy. So I do short-term therapy. So that's my role here.
Okay, that's nice meeting you.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. So I'm gonna start with my first question. I guess you just introduced yourself, but you just did, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna go with my first one. So from your educational background as an expert who studies the normal and abnormal mental, stages from cognitive, emotional, and social, what can you tell us on the usage of taking notes via laptops versus handwritten notes in a classroom setting?
From my perspective, I think that it depends on the person, right? Coming from having been there as a student and studying, having a laptop was helpful, right? Because it's just so much easier to just type. But then again, it depends. Are you old school, or do you mind? Do you like typing? So I think it's preference. I don't think that it affects, psychologically, socially, emotionally. I just think everyone's preference. Everyone's different.
Okay, good. So my second question is, what are your thoughts on students' learning outcomes when they're using laptops while lecture?
Say it again?
Like, what are your thoughts on students' learning outcomes, like when it comes to using computers while being in lecture?
Oh, well, so it's like a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
Because you can, for example, laptops are easy to take notes, right? But at the same time, it can be a distraction for many, right? Because who hasn't, while their professor is giving a lecture, gotten on Facebook, gone shopping, especially if the lecture is something boring, right? So it is like a double-edged sword, to be honest with you. So I think that it can serve as a distraction.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
And I think obviously that falls on each student on being responsible and having that control, right, of not going to certain websites. But yeah, it's a temptation for a distraction.
It is. All right. My third question will be: do you believe that taking handwritten notes is better than taking notes on laptops?
Oh. Oh God. Honestly, I think that depends. I think that the generation that we live in now want everything easy, right? What's the easiest way? What's the fastest way, right? Even when we're in traffic, you see it, right? You want to run over the cars. Like, what's the easiest way? What's the shortcut? So I think that one thing that helped me, right, when I was a student, was that each professor sets their classroom, the class environment a certain way. Some professors, they don't mind you being on the laptop taking notes, but for others, just to avoid, all possibilities of you getting distracted, they just provide like the PowerPoint presentations so that even though if you don't want to, you just hand write them. Does that answer your question? Just like double-edged, yeah.
So research suggests that using laptop is very distracting, not only for the person but also for their peers around them.
Yeah.
And so I think from point of view and perspective and from experience, we've some of our peers have been using their laptops and we also get distracted. And so a University of Maryland professor also conducted a study in which he surveyed his students who used laptops in class versus those who didn't. And so what he found was that students who used laptops were less able to retain the information of what was given in the lecture. And so our proposal is about, I guess, like banning laptops. I mean, even though I think laptop is useful, but when it comes to like, I guess, like distraction and like from peers,
I mean, that makes sense because right when you don't have a laptop, you're sort of forced to have to force yourself to pay attention because there's nothing to get distracted, right? But we could also say the same thing about phones. That's another thing, right? Because professors in college are not like your teachers in high school, right? You could also get distracted by the phone. So it's like it's like a little bit of everything.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but I totally see because it does make sense, right?
Right, and so my fourth question is, if laptops usage were banned from classrooms, do you believe that students would learn better or do better in the performance, and their performance will increase or no? Like, you know,
I
like
think so.
if we ban computers from classrooms, do you think their performance will increase?
Yes, I think so, because like I said, they would be forced to pay attention, right? Because you wouldn't have as many distractions, so it would be sort of easier for you to just stay focused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, number 5, do you believe students should be allowed to take notes via laptops? If the answer is no, then why? Like, do you think like they should be allowed to take notes on the laptops, or?
I think they should, and I sort of said that I think in question number 1, because like we were talking right now, right? It's a double-edged sword, right? Everyone's different, and laptops, it is easier for you to take notes, right? But at the same time, it goes back to what we're discussing, that it's also a distraction. So I think that just depends, I think, on the professor and on the student.
And I think there's also like research that indicates about like the multitasking. It's like, you know, like that also plays a huge factor in like students learning, their learning outcome. Cause like, I guess like when you're focused on 2 things at the same time, it's like you're not processing and you're not like going through, I guess, like the steps and your cognitive and all that. So it's like where if you're writing, it's like you're actually taking in the information, writing it. Whereas like laptop is just like you're just looking at it. So that's something like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. That's true. Right, so number 6, if there's anything you can change regarding students and usage of laptops during lectures, what would it be?
Like if I were a professor type of thing?
Yeah, if there was something that you would change in regards to students using laptops in classrooms, what would it be?
That's tricky, and I say that's tricky is because, right, at the University of Maryland, so I went to a smaller college, but University of Maryland, their classes or the lectures are way bigger. Professors are not going to go like one by one monitoring what you're watching, and I think that's where it falls on the professor setting up the classroom environment, right? Like if that's what you're going for, like to prevent distraction, if the research demonstrates this is just banning the laptops. Banning the laptops, even if that means, some people wouldn't get to write their notes. I mean, but they could write them, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, it's either you do allow them or you don't.
But do you think do you think like using laptops may have like psychological effects, or like instead of like writing like the notes down, or?
So I don't think that typing or using the laptop would have psychological effects, but maybe on cognition, such as retaining information, right? Writing does help retain the information. So in that aspect, yes.
Okay, yeah. So do you have any, like lastly, I guess, if you have any thoughts final thoughts based on our topic?
So I guess what year did you go to school?
So I graduated in 2016, 2 years ago.
Okay, so
okay.
that's not.
Like 2 years ago almost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was maybe thinking, because like I guess like let's say if you would have graduated in 05 or 04, and so
things would have been much
different. Yeah, like social media
yeah.
wasn't that big, and so there wasn't as much distraction as we have
Yeah.
now today. So.
But I, as myself, when I was attending grad school, I would force myself sometimes to not use the laptop because I would notice that I would get distracted.
Yeah.
So on purpose, just to practice self-control and to retain what I was learning, I would do old school and just write notes. Yeah.
Do you think that since technology has increased nowadays, like everyone has access to it, do you think that also has an effect on students like being distracted from classrooms?
Definitely. You even see it walking outside, right? When you walk outside, people, they don't have face-to-face conversations anymore. People are busy on their phones, on their tablets. Even kids, when they come here with their parents, like for therapy, and we have to do like an assessment, which is like the first like therapy session usually. I'm having a conversation with the mom or dad, and just the parents will do that just to keep them busy and to keep them calm. Okay, here's the phone. Here's the tablet. So it's like everyone is distracted by it. It's a big distraction. I think there's a lot of research on that. Not just laptops,
Yeah.
but also our phones and
Yeah.
just internet in general. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think that was it.
Yeah. I
really
hope I answered you guys'
no,
questions.
definitely. I definitely appreciate you taking the time out of your busy
Oh, no
schedule
problem.
to
Yeah, it
us
was
with our
fun.
Yeah.
I hope you guys get what you guys
Thank
are.
you. I
Yeah.
really-
Yeah.
yeah.
So important.
Yeah. I hope you guys get what you guys are. You know, I think it's a great idea to do.